also focusing on making ourselves more resilient to the impacts of a changing climate that are having significant effects on both the pace and intensity of some of these storms.
President Obama using his visit to the National Hurricane Center in Miami to insist that climate change will make storms more intense. This is really not the first attempt that our president has utilized to, quote, raise the alarm. While speaking to the graduating class of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, he claimed that climate change is an immediate threat to our national security. Joining us now, Newsmax and Forbes columnist Larry Bell. Larry is Skyping in from Texas. We should tell you he is the author of the new book, Scared Witless, Prophets and Profits of Climate Doom. Larry, it's great to have you here on Newsmax Prime.
JD, thanks for having me back.
You bet. Now, Larry, in your book, you expose a number of competing agendas behind this so-called climate change. From your perspective, which is the most shocking?
Well, we're getting used to all of them, I think. First, you got the United Nations that thinks that our prosperity is really unfair, so we ought to spread the wealth to other countries to help them fight global warming and virtually everything else. So the United Nations and their Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which decided on day one that there's this crisis and we're causing it, of course. And then you've got the EPA and all these alphabet soup government organizations that, you know, when the fear goes away, their funding goes away. They have to show that they're saving the world. So they need to protect us from plant food, which is carbon dioxide, and save Bambi and so on. But you know, Bambi would be much happier with more carbon dioxide because there'd be more greening of the rainforest.
Yeah, more to eat for Bambi.
A lot more to eat, and then you've got the subsidy seekers. You've got the, you got to demonize fossil fuels so that you can build a case for windmills and sunbeams.
Yeah, and let's talk more about that, because your background obviously is in science, and there's all this debate about the science of climate change. How much money is poured into climate research, Larry? Is that the real attraction for these people?
Well, the research is just, subsidized by, the so-called climate research has become a way of ideological government getting its word out. And so you can't get funding for any study of, say, natural causes of climate change. And incidentally, we haven't seen any climate change now for 18 going on 19 years. You know, according to satellites, global mean temperatures have been flat now for over 18 years. And if the sun keeps behaving like it has been in terms of sunspot activity, it looks like we may have a very prolonged cooling period. So all this global warming is supposed to cause these hurricanes and so on. Incidentally, that's farcical. There's never been a study that's connected hurricanes with global warming. And point of fact, we haven't had global warming for some time.
We have about 2 minutes remaining, and I'm very interested, Larry, in the way that the dominant media culture covers these stories. If you do a word search of stories on your computer, you'll find the term deniers mentioned hundreds of times for those who dare speak out and question the science behind this so-called global warming. I'm interested in your reaction to being labeled, quote, a denier.
Well, it's interesting, the denier term is their attempt at linking us with Holocaust deniers. And so, understand that scientists are supposed to be skeptical. That's the whole idea of science, and there's to be fact checking. But if you want, and Obama recently said that, deniers are a threat. Well, I would suggest that those who deny people's rights to believe as they do and cut their heads off or set them on fire are probably deniers that are more worth worrying about. And yes, the whole world seems like the Middle East and other areas of the world are heating up, but it certainly isn't global warming causing it.
And as you mentioned, what's happening in the Middle East, your reaction, about 30 seconds remain, your reaction to President Obama listing climate change as a national security concern.
I think there's, the world recognizes that this is a joke, and I'm sure our allies are concerned that this is his priority.
We will have to leave it there. Larry Bell, as always, we appreciate your insights and analysis. Larry Bell, the author of Scared Witless, Prophets and Profits of Climate Doom. Thanks so much for your time. Now, you heard what Larry had to say. Do you believe those who are skeptical of global warming are deniers? Why don't you get in touch with me? You can use email, Newsmax Prime at newsmaxtv.com. There's also Facebook and Twitter, and you can go to the website, newsmax.com/comments. There's more ahead on Newsmax Prime.